Let me tell you about the day I pitched a tent beside my own lake and wound up staring down the business end of a police badge on my own land, no less. I mean, I'd always known the world could get a little absurd, but I never figured birdsong would be interrupted by two uniformed officers apologizing for bothering me because some busybody claimed I was illegally camping on property my family's owned since before half the neighborhood even existed. You know what I mean? That's when I saw her, Marcia, HOA royalty, marching in like she owned the oxygen sunglasses, swallowing half her face, clipboard, waving around like it was a sheriff's badge. She screeched about community regulations so loud you'd think I was grilling endangered species instead of marshmallows. I told her real calm that this was my land deed and all. She just smirked and said, "We have jurisdiction over this entire area. You can't just do whatever you want." That's when I realized she wasn't just power tripping, she actually believed it. Problem for her, though, was that I had receipts. Not just the legal papers. Oh, I had those thick as bricks, but a whole saga of HOA nonsense and trespassing that went back years. And I decided right then if they wanted a fight, they were about to get one they'd remember. Let me back up a sec. That lake behind the pines. It's been in my family forever since my granddad's days, when it was nothing but wild trees and mud. When he passed, I got everything Lakeland, even a weathered box stuffed with deeds, surveys, yellowing maps, and a lifetime of photos showing where our boundaries ran clear as daylight. 15 acres private, no fine print. But the HOA folks, they never cared about history. Control was their game. Over the years, their community crept closer. First a sidewalk that just happened to run along our edge, then benches showed up, a dock appeared courtesy of HOA funds for everyone's enjoyment, and finally a walking path that curled halfway around the lake like a noose. For a long time I let it slide. I didn't want trouble. But the second they decided to make me their target, it got personal. First came the welcome letter from the HOA, all cheerful, pretending I lived in their jurisdiction even though their own map said otherwise. Then an invoice for maintenance dues over $200 for a lake I already owned. I called, of course. Marcia answered, and she actually said, "Oh, that lake's part of our recreational zone now. Everyone uses it. You benefit, so you pay." I explained the legal ownership, the deed, everything. She just laughed it off. Paperwork is paper. We operate on precedent. That line would come back to haunt her big time. I still tried to be civil. I sent copies of the deed surveyor's maps, even some drone photos with GPS data. Thought that would end it. Instead, 2 weeks later, I found a laminated no camping sign nailed to my tree. A neighbor's kid told me his mom said I was squatting on public land. Then came threats of fines, then the police. Now you'd think the cops would look at the deed and put a stop to the madness. Nope, they just shrugged, told me to work it out with the HOA. That's like telling someone to negotiate with a raccoon for their garbage. Next thing I knew, I saw orange construction stakes. Apparently the HOA was planning to build a gazebo on the community lakefront property, which just happened to be my North Shore. I called the county. Turns out the permits were filed using a parcel number that didn't even match mine. That's when I decided I was done playing nice. I showed up at the next HOA meeting. Marcia nearly choked on her sparkling water when she saw me. "You're not a resident," she hissed. "You can't speak. I said you keep charging me fees. Sounds like I'm part of your club." The room got real quiet, real fast. Neighbors started whispering, but most just sided with Marcia. She had that air like she couldn't possibly be wrong. After that, things got nasty. First, fish guts dumped at my property line. Then my mailbox got ripped off. Someone tried to spray paint over my private property signs. I installed cameras, hidden and infrared. The footage, unbelievable. Board members walking their dogs through my woods. Kids carving initials into trees. Marcia herself leading a nature walk, telling people we maintain this with community funds. I started keeping a log. Every trespass, every act of vandalism. Then the letter that finally broke me, a final warning from the HOA threatening legal action if I didn't remove unauthorized structures. They met my tent, can you believe it? That's when I decided to fight back for real. Step 1, call Derek, my cousin's husband. Real estate attorney, loves a good property dispute. He took one look at my file and just grinned. They're toast. Within 48 hours, we sent a cease and desist demanding the HOA stop everything, no more fees, no more construction, and remove that dock. We included drone photos and time-stamped security footage just to really drive the point home. Then I went public, literally. Ordered custom metal signs with bold red letters, parcel numbers, GPS coordinates, private property, trespassers will be prosecuted. Put them up at every trailhead. Installed floodlights, motion-activated the works. Meanwhile, I found out the HOA had been filing reimbursements using county tax forms for work on my land. That's not just annoying, that's fraud. I got the proof, sent it to the county, the state attorney, even their insurance. With Derek's help, I compiled a 47-page report, incidents, photos, neighbor statements, the works. And then I really stirred the pot, invited the local news out to the lake. Pitched my tent again for effect. Today I want to clear up a misunderstanding. I said this land is privately owned. The HOA has lied, trespassed, and that ends now. Footage aired that night. The next HOA meeting, I showed up with a court injunction and handed it to Marcia right there. The look on her face, you could bottle it. After that, it was dominoes. County pulled every permit related to the lake. A week later, a county investigator, surveyor, and 2 deputies confirmed every single community improvement was on my side of the line. By Friday, the county issued a cease and desist against the HOA. Then came the fines, unauthorized land use, misuse of funds. Insurance got yanked. Neighbors started coming around, some apologizing, some wanting to help. Old Mr. Carter brought me a pie and just said, "Shoulda listened sooner." Then the twist, Marcia resigned, just a one-line email to everyone, no apology, just vanished. The next HOA newsletter had a photo of the lake and the caption, "Know the boundaries before you overstep them." Credited to me, though I never wrote it. I didn't even mind. After all that, I didn't want revenge. I just wanted the truth, respected my family's legacy, left alone, and maybe a little peace. But here's what I learned. Bullies don't always have fists. Sometimes they hide behind bylaws and khakis and clipboards. Sometimes justice is just a well-placed sign and a silent camera in the woods. So if someone tries to rewrite your story, don't hand them the pen. Know your land, know your rights. And don't be afraid to stand up, even if it's just you in a tent against the world. So tell me, what would you have done if someone like Marcia came after your land? Would you fight or walk away? Drop your take in the comments, justice served or too far. And if you ever think about joining an HOA, maybe check the property lines first. You don't need to shout to win. Sometimes a quiet tent and a mountain of receipts do the job just fine.